stream is about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hi, I'm Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is the continuation of our first complete, hopefully, audio effect for real-time audio processing in Reaper using the new library that we are working on. I've been working on this library for a while now, and it is at a point where I think we will be able to use it for a full effect. But I'm going to over-engineer that effect, so we'll see. Let's look at where we are right now. So this is what it looks like right now, and it's a volume effect, but I have high ambitions for it. Volume, so audio coming in, audio going out, and I'm able to control it. And the cool thing about this is that it is not going to produce any clicks when I'm automating this, when I'm moving this around. And I have control over the range, so I can go from -10 to 10 if I want to do some fine adjustments, or I can go to -30 or +30, and I can even go to 100. Which of course is going to trigger the auto muting in Reaper. So let's turn that off. Oh. Huh. Is that a bug? It seems like this is a bug. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever happened, it's not happening anymore. So far, so good. We are letting the user control the range of a slider, which is not something that you typically see. And we are preventing noises, which is something that many effects have some kind of out slider to control the out gain. And many plugins get this wrong. But then there's this custom one, which I guess is my favorite. And what this does is it allows you to provide the range, and then you can assign this to kind of a MIDI pedal, and then you have a volume pedal. So this is what we have right now. What I want to still add to this is some kind of visualization of the waveform. And this is, of course, super optional, but I want to have a visualization of the waveform. And I think it's actually going to solve a different issue. If we add a visualization to the waveform, we will add a graphical user interface for this. And I think it's going to solve a problem that is kind of annoying. I am doing this range control by showing and hiding sliders. And when I go to custom, some sliders show up here, but I have to increase the window size to see it. But if I have a graphical user interface, then I think that the window is going to be bigger to begin with. So I think that that is going to solve this small bug as well. So let's go over the code for this, and we'll do changes as we see fit. So first of all, I think that this description, so this is complete, it's explicit, but it is kind of too much information. So I think I'm going to change this description to just be 10 dB 30 dB, 100 dB, and custom. It's still gonna work just the same. It's just the label that is going to be different. So how about we come here and full compile reset for this to be picked up. And it is actually plus or minus 100, so maybe I could have something like this. But no, just like that, I think is perfect. And it could be nice to have a couple more ranges in here, like maybe 200 dB. And this is in case like you are testing dithering noise and you want to increase the volume drastically. Yeah, I think that this is probably everything that we will want in terms of range. Or you know what? If you really want to do this range, you can type the value in. I think that having 100 in terms of sliders is good enough. So then we have this minimum, maximum, and volume that goes from 0 to 1. That's the one that you assign to the MIDI pedal. Then we have this follower situation that we developed last week. Then we show and hide the sliders accordingly, and we map, if necessary, map from this value to this range. That's this line here. And then we have the thing that is actually doing the follower situation, and then it is applying that gain to every channel. So that's another thing that our plugin does, that every plugin developed with our library is supposed to do. All of them are probably going to do, which is to support multiple channels when it makes sense to do so. So I changed something and I think I committed already, or Visual Studio Code is stuck. It seems like it's stuck. Oh. No, I committed already. But Visual Studio Code is stuck here. Isn't this weird? I'm going to reopen it. That's better. So now let's go over these to-dos that we left for ourselves last week. We have a component in the library that allows us to draw waveforms. So we are going to add waveforms to this. And we can go to the demonstration effect and look for waveforms. This way, we can copy and paste code that will help us use this part of the library. So first of all, in the init block, we need to initialize these data structures that are going to store the waveforms over time. And in this case, the name is just going to be waveforms, and I want one waveform per channel. So that's why I'm initializing this as a chunk of memory, and then I'm looping over that chunk of memory, and then I'm initializing one waveform component per channel. Then there is this thing here that I forget what this parameter does. And if JSFX had named parameters, this would probably be a named parameter. But JSFX does not have named parameters. So let's see. It's the size of the slices. So how many slices we want. So that is essentially the number of columns in the monitor in the worst case scenario. So I think I'm going to store like, let's see. Let's look at the dimensions of an 8K monitor. So if we store 10,000 lines, it's going to be good enough. And 10,000 lines is like super cheap for us to store. If we do a single second of audio, it would be 48,000 samples. In this case, it's 20,000. So it's like storing half a second of audio. It's no big deal. And then this is the length in time that we want to store. So this is the pixels, and this is the waveform, the actual audio. And I'm mapping from this second argument into the first when I'm adding stuff to the waveform drawing. And this is given in terms of samples. So if this is in terms of columns or pixels, this is in terms of samples. And I do have a library function to convert from milliseconds to samples. And I want to store, maybe we can change this and tune it later, but I'll store like 5 seconds worth of audio. And the cool thing about this waveform component is that if I wanted to store 3 hours of audio, it doesn't really matter because this is the amount of memory that is used. And we are doing this mapping from audio to pixels on the fly, and we are not storing the whole audio. So I could just store 2 hours if I wanted. Great. So next, we need to find the place where we push. So this is going to be in the sample block. As the samples are coming in, we are going to push them into the waveform display. So we need a line that looks like this, and we need a line that looks like that. Naturally, this can go away. So now it looks like this. So this is us first doing the actual gain, but then we also store this to be able to show this later. Now, at this point, there is something that I want to add to the list of things to do, which is to prevent extra work if UI isn't showing. What I mean by this is that we are doing some work here. For instance, we are pushing stuff into the waveform display, even if there is no audio coming, not if there is no audio coming through. Of course, there is some audio coming through. Even if we are not showing the waveform, we are still doing the work to store this. Now, this is actually a trade-off because we could argue that we want to show the waveform for past samples. As soon as we open the window, we want the waveform to be there. And that's a good argument, actually. But it does take resources. So I think it's better if it behaves like relimit does, where when I open the plugin, it starts showing the waveform. But if I go away and the UI is not drawing, it's probably going to save some CPU and GPU by not storing samples and whatnot. Because when I open this again, maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. I'm going to wiggle this and then open this. And it seems like no. Yeah, it's not updating this on the background, right? Because when I change this level, I can see the updates there. But if I let this pass, and then I wiggle, and I open it, it's fixed. So it's only updating when the window is open. And that's, I think, the best thing to do because it's going to save resources. It's a simple volume effect. It should not be consuming so much of your processing power, right? So prevent extra work if UI isn't showing. But right now, we're not doing that. We're just storing samples as they come. Then we need something in the JSFX block. And it's going to be something like this. Now, naturally, I need to loop over the channels. And I'm going to do something here in the JSFX block that I am also doing on the demonstration effect. Oh, yeah, I have to remember to call this function. And I'm going to give this a size. So let's look at the sizes that, let's look at the size that I'm using here. I guess I'll use that for now. We'll see if this makes sense. Oh, this is not how this is spelled anymore. There you go. And also, I forgot to call the initialization here. And that was not a big deal because we didn't have data structures up to this point, but now we do. The waveforms are data structures. So this is necessary to initialize the memory. This is necessary to initialize some constants for drawing. And there's something that I actually want to change about the drawing of the waveforms, which is the color. Yeah, I don't want to have that here because I am going to draw the two waveforms, the original one and the one. Oh, so actually we need to store two waveforms, but I want to draw the original waveform and the waveform that was produced. And I want the opacity to not be completely opaque, so that the waveforms are going to draw one on top of the other. And to manipulate the alpha channel, to make the thing transparent, I thought, well, I can just set JSFX alpha equal to something before I draw the waveform. But if I'm doing that, I might as well just do that with the color as well, right? So I guess the argument for letting the color in the component itself was to make the component kind of self-contained. But I think that I'm going to have two levels of components. The lower level ones, like the waveform drawing, is going to behave much like every other thing in JSFX, where you set the colors and the alpha before you ask to draw the thing. And then I will have higher level components that maybe bring together some of these components, like maybe a waveform with a line on top of it to show the gain reduction on a compressor, that sort of thing. And for that, I would need multiple colors because I need the color for the waveform, I need the color for the line, and so forth. And then I need to also change in the demonstration effect, I need to set the color like that. And then, of course, it is going to change how we are doing things here. And then I don't need the color there. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. Well, I said that I'm going to commit what I have, though I may have broken things, but we'll see. I said that I want to draw two waveforms per channel. So I want to draw the waveforms, the inputs and the outputs. Oh. Okay. Sample wave instances, waveforms, inputs and outputs, and input and output. Okay, easy enough. But what I want to do is probably something like this, where I store the sample. Or maybe not. I just go ahead and do it like this. Okay, let me double check that this makes sense. I get a hold of the waveform input for that channel, and then I push the current sample into that. Then I do the transformation, and I store that there. Like so. Now this code works, but I don't like it. And what I don't like about it is that the actual digital signal processing is interspersed into some ceremony that has to do with the graphical user interface. When we get to the part of preventing extra work, we'll have to do some conditional, and I would prefer to do it in a single place instead of having to do it there and then here. So I'm going to refactor this real quick. I'm going to store the sample input, and then I'm going to define the sample output as and it is natural that when you are doing visualization, you kind of have to clutter or refactor your digital signal processing a little bit. In some cases, you're going to make things a little bit slower. I'm not sure if like extracting these variables is going to make anything slower, but we do have to do a bit more ceremony because we want to draw stuff. And I guess maybe that's why many digital signal processors, many plugins, don't have great user interfaces because it's hard. It's probably harder than doing the audio part. Not quite, but still. Okay, so the input times the follower gives me the output, and then I store the output, and then I have a single place here where I'm doing all the waveform pushing for the UI, and that's the part that I will be able to skip with a conditional when time comes. And this is the sample input, and that is the sample output. Great. So now over here where I have the waveforms and I want to draw them, I need to say that this is the input. And then I want to set an alpha, but I don't have an opacity on my design system yet. So let's go to the design system and add opacity. Let me find a place where I have something like border width, border radius. Okay, that works for me. Oh boy, that's a lot of colors. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that this is a good place, so I can just paste this. Okay, I think that we have opacity on the design system now. And let's say that the volume going in is at 40% opacity. Oh, and then we need to define the area where we are drawing this. So let me go back to the demonstration effect and set the background color like this. Or actually I want something like that, probably. Yeah, I want to set the background color, and then I don't really need to set a color. Oh, yeah, I do, because I want to do this view. And I think that in this effect, I just want to have the whole screen. So I'll use the variables that come with Reaper to just give me the whole screen. But the border radius stays like that. So this is just giving me a background color, and this is drawing a rectangle on top of that background color with a different color and with border radius. We'll see what that looks like in a moment. Then the Y position is going to start at 0. Or rather, it's going to start... I need to first define the increment. And that is the whole height divided by the number of channels. So I'm going to draw all the channels, and I'm going to just divide the whole height of the window by the number of channels. I'm not going to put any space between them. Okay, I think that this is good enough. So then it is going to start at minus increment. And then I add the increment every time. And having done that, think instead of calling this the increment, I'll call this the height. Because then I can use it here. Oh, and then it's not Y height. It is just height. Okay, so that's me drawing the input. Let's draw the output as well. So this one I probably want to be a little bit darker. Something like that. Or I guess this can be 100% opacity. And then I draw the output on top, so under the same conditions. Right, let's see what this looks like. Or actually, let's first look at the demonstration effect, because I changed the drawing of the waveform and it's still working just fine. Great. Wow, this crashed Reaper. I really didn't think it was possible to crash Reaper with JSFX. I think this is the first time. Amazing. Okay, so there is no audio going out. Just making sure. And then wow. Yep, it crashes Reaper. Okay, interesting. Now we have some debugging to do. Amazing. I'm able to crash Reaper with JSFX. This is great. Okay, let's, I guess, comment out the parts that could be dangerous. So all the parts that have to do with the waveforms. And I suppose that this will not crash Reaper. Okay. This doesn't crash Reaper, so now we can add it here in Reaper itself, and we can see what is going to make this crash. Okay, this recompiled okay. Now let's try storing. And this crashes Reaper. Okay. So what could we be doing wrong over here? I think I'm going to comment all of this out and then bring these lines back one by one. Okay, this is okay. Then let's try that. That is okay. Okay, all of that is okay. And I believe that even this part has the potential of being okay. Okay. But the drawing is not happening. I was expecting to sort of see a line here in the middle. But really the issue is with pushing samples. Okay, so let's commit what we currently have here. And let's reread to see if there is something obviously wrong. Yeah, let's check what these values are. The sample input and output are the same value. Okay, I guess that could make sense. Hang on, that does not make sense. Sample input is the number 2 and the sample output is also the number 2? That does not make sense because the inputs and outputs should be different addresses. Okay, let's double check the variables to see if there is any sort of typo that could be happening here. This doesn't make sense. But hang on, there is an instances kind of thing. That is wrong. Instances. Okay, that could be part of the bug. Still doesn't explain the crash though. And our inputs and outputs are the same value. That doesn't seem right. And these guys being the same also doesn't seem right. There's something spooky going on. Probably a variable that I mistyped. But if that was the case, I would see two names very similar to one another and probably one without any references. Here is a case where there is only one reference to these variables. That is never a good sign. Sample.waveform.input. Oh, it's just because I commented out that part of the code. Okay, that still makes sense. What does not make sense is that the input and the output are the same number. So what is this? This is a big number. That makes sense. And what is that? That is the same big number. That part doesn't make sense. Because every time I run this, I should be getting a different number out. And I am. That's so spooky that I just want to drop the effect into the track again because maybe something just got stuck. And nope, same numbers. Is the demonstration effect still working? It is. It is drawing and everything. Let me make sure that I mute this. And then I'm going to put a tone generator behind it. And then, yeah, we see the waveform changing. That cannot be right. We're probably misusing the library in some way, but I am calling the init function. And then in the sample block, we don't have anything to initialize. We do need the serialize block. Oh, so maybe that's it. The number of channels isn't defined here. And we are storing 0, an array of size 0. Yeah, that's what this is about. I like to leave my serialize after my sliders. Okay, yeah, I think that was the bug. And then let's look at the consequences of having that as a size of 0. We would have these guys not really allocated, and then the push would do something crazy. Not quite. It could divide by 0 or something like that, but nothing that should crash Reaper. Spooky. Baby also finds it spooky. Okay, now we got something. Make extra sure that no audio is gonna go through and put our tone generator in there. And then we can just play around with this and we can see the gain changing. Awesome. Yeah, we probably want to have the... Now we need to fine tune everything. Is the amount of time that is going through all right? I think it is. Does this solve the... Let's put the volume effect on the track again. Okay, so is the size of the window fine? I really think that it is. And does this solve the problem of the sliders not showing? Yes, it does. Okay, it's a nice little consequence of this. Then this is showing all right. What happens if we go above? It gets super slow. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I'll take it. This is fast. It's really when there is loud noise going through that it gets slow. Weird. Let's see what we have. We are drawing the waveforms, but I'm not completely happy with the drawing of the waveforms. Oh, something interesting is happening. Ah, okay. I thought for a moment that maybe I was getting for free the behavior that I wanted of preventing extra work, but it's just because I went to another application, so Reaper stopped processing audio. In fact, if I enable this for recording, then I think that this behavior changes, and even if I go to Visual Studio Code and then back, it's gonna be there. And if I close the effects window and I wiggle the parameter around, I still see the wiggling later, which is kind of nice too. It's not too bad, but it is wasting resources. I mean, a volume effect has no business taking 0.2% of my CPU, especially when the UI is not showing. So that's that, but I still am not completely happy with the fact that I cannot see both waveforms at all times. So I think that I need something a little bit more opaque or transparent, rather. So maybe we can use colors as inputs and outputs, maybe. How about instead of gray warm, we have... What are good colors to indicate input and output? I don't know, let's just see what this looks like. So in both cases, the opacity is low, but I have different colors, so let's see. Yeah, when this is on top, I cannot see what's underneath. And I think I want to make it a little bit louder. Yeah, just like that. So when I decrease this, I can see the original one, but when I increase it, I cannot see the original one. And I wanted to see that. So let's play with colors. Let's have a red and a green. That is interesting. Is the opacity just not working, or is it something else? I think I know what it may be. See, it's starting to poke through. The red, I mean. I think it's just that we are drawing over the same pixel so many times that the opacity is just not working. So I guess I'm not done with drawing the waveforms, am I? Okay, I think I know what the bug is here. I set the opacity and it is being respected, but by the way that the library works, I'm drawing over the same pixels a couple times, and then the opacity doesn't work because I am drawing with like 10% opacity over and over and over. So at some point I'm covering what is underneath. That's not a happy moment. Yeah, we have to figure out fix opacity. But I think that this, to prevent the extra work when the UI isn't showing, is relatively easy to do. So what we have to do is, first, when we wiggle here, we don't want to see the result there. So what we have to do is we have to check if we have been drawing recently. So in the JSFX documentation, there is this, I think it's like special time functions, that's what this is. We have a notion of time. Haven't ever worked with this before, but let's try it. Okay, you can see below that it's returning the number of seconds. So what I want to do is I want to check if the UI has been drawn recently, because as far as I can tell, there is no way for me to tell that the UI is showing. Let's see if there is some magic variable for this under the graphics and under the special variables. Yeah, there I can ask if I am on the track control panel or the mixer control panel, but I cannot ask if I am showing right now. And what about these variables? Meaty bus? What's that about? I didn't know that. Okay, so there is no way for me to ask if the plugin is currently showing or not. So we're going to hack our way around this by having something that updates. So instance last GFX let's drawn is going to be equal to the time. And over here, over here, I'm just going to check the time. I'm going to check the current time on the sample block against this variable. So if enough time has elapsed, it means that we are not currently showing. So that's easy. What is not easy is we want to condition this. We want to run this only if we are currently showing. But if I check in here the time, I will be checking the time a lot of times, and checking the time is probably not free. It's not cheap. So I was doing this and this on the same loop because I wanted to save computation. I didn't want to do multiple loops, but it may be better for me to extract this into its own loop. No, not quite, because then I would have to store these sample outputs somewhere to be able to push them here. So I think that what I really want to do is sample JSFX is visible is equal to, so I'm going to check the time only once per sample right at the beginning. So I take the current time and I subtract that from this, and I check if it is less than, let's say, 3. And then over here I check if the JSFX is visible, and I do that. Okay, let's check this. Do we want to reload it? Yeah, why not? In fact, I think I'm even going to re-add it to the track. So when it is on, it's great, but then I leave it off and I wiggle the parameter and I go back and I don't see the wiggles. See, I'm not storing samples when the UI is not showing. But what is cute is that if I go there and I wiggle in this 3-second window, I see some wiggles and then not some other wiggles. And then I see that. So let me prove it to you. I'm over here, I am seeing stuff. Then over here, I'm going to wiggle it a little bit, and I'm going to wait. And I'm going to wiggle some more. And I say that you see one of the wiggles and not the other. So you see the one that came first, but not the second one. So that's because of this tolerance of 3 seconds. But what I want is, if I became invisible, I want to flush the waveforms. And I suppose that I want to do that here. And I suppose that it will go something like this. Became visible. So I just became visible if the last drawn has been more than 3 seconds ago. And I can just check for this. And if that is the case, I need to flush, to zero out the waveforms. And I don't have a function to do that. I'm going to hack my way into that real quick, and then later we'll add library functions to do this. So a waveform. I guess I'm going to loop over. Like that. Get a hold of the waveforms like this. And then let's write the code to flush things out. So what I want is to use memset over some position. And I want to set 0 for the size of the waveform, which is something that I'm going to get from the waveform as well. Right. So let's see what the waveform consists of. It's a structure that has slices and it also has this samples per slice, the duration that's in seconds, samples in current slice. Yeah, I think that everything I want is from here. So I just get a hold of the slices, and they are circular buffer. So I can go to the part of the code base that defines the circular buffer, and I will learn how to get its signal. A signal is an array. So if I go to the array part of the code base, I will learn how to get the size and the data. For here, I want the data. And over there, I want this size. Okay, that is a bit tricky. I'm not sure I love this, but it's something. Yeah, probably what we want is to have some notion of memset that works on arrays, and then that works on circular buffers, and then that works on waveforms. So I think I just need to extract and then we will simplify this a whole lot. But for now, I think that this hack is going to work. So let's go back, make sure that we have a fresh instance. That's not good, is it? What the hell? Well, let's double check the documentation to see if I am using that right. Memory functions there, memset. Oh, no. These are slices. These circular buffers are special. They are the so-called polymorphic buffers. So this is not gonna fly. I have to get to those locations. Yeah. We have something similar to that over here. Yeah, so the problem here is that I'm treating the waveform circular buffer as if it stored values, but it doesn't store values. The circular buffer that forms waveforms stores addresses to these data structures called slices. Oh man, this is annoying. I have to have another loop in here. And all of that is just to zero out the input. I'll have to write another one of these huge hacks for the output as well. This is ridiculous. Oh, I think I have a reset function for that, don't I? Nope. It says extract this into a reset function. So nope, I didn't implement that. That is ridiculous. But it may work. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have it like this. So I get a hold of the waveforms for the input. Then I loop over the size, and I forgot to say +1 to the index. I don't even want the index, I want the offset. Yeah, I want an offset. And the offset is going to start at 1. And then it's going to be -1, like that. Okay. Not okay. This is not okay. This is getting way out of hand. Let's see. So I get a hold of the input, then I start this offset at 1. Then I go over the data structure size. So for each one of the slices, I set the offset to -1. So it's going to start at 0 and then it's going to be negative. And then this is me getting a hold of the slices from this waveform. Then I'm getting a hold of the current slice by using this monstrosity. And then I jump into the slice and reset the maximum and the minimum. Yikes. And I think I see a problem with this already. It's resetting to -infinity and +infinity. So it's just going to draw a really big waveform, isn't it? 1, 2, 3. It's not resetting. Did I not wait long enough? Now I waited long enough, didn't I? It's just not doing anything. At least it's still working, but no. I think that this is not a way to live my life. Yeah, I think that this whole endeavor is not paying off. Yeah, so I'm just reversing the thing. So we were able to get the thing to not work when... Oh, I guess this is a leftover, isn't it? Yeah. So we were able to save the work when we are not showing. It's just that to reset the waveform, it is kind of complicated. we'll have to think about many issues like the polymorphic data structure. We'll also have to deal with this notion of how to even reset this, because it is going to start at minus infinity and plus infinity, and before we get there, that's why I don't see a line. It's not at 0. It's at plus and minus infinity. So that is a weird situation to be in. Yeah. Deal with uninitialized variables when drawing. What's plus and minus infinity doing? And I'm not even sure I understand the problem there. As always, things get more complicated than we expected, but we are able to draw waveforms, and we revisited this and we looked at the complications that arise from the notion of trying to save CPU. Essentially to not have to store this, because the drawing itself is not going to happen. It's just this that gets annoying, and it's taking this amount of CPU. I suppose that if I comment this out, then the CPU use goes down, right? Not by much. Oh, yes, it does. It does. The CPU that we are seeing is from the other instance. Yeah, it goes essentially to 0. And the tone generator is the one to blame for the 0.1, the occasional 0.1. So yeah, doing this takes 0.3% of the CPU, which is okay if you're looking at the thing. It's not okay if you're not. So it is what it is, whatever, we'll see. Tomorrow, what we'll be doing is... I guess we'll be drawing the volume over time. That can be interesting, and I know I haven't really fixed everything about the waveforms, but they are on the screen. Of course, I have the version where I commented out the thing, but it is drawing on the screen. So now what I want to do is to draw a line to indicate the gain. So with 0 gain, it's going to be a line in the middle, and then when you increase and lower the gain, the line is going to go up and down. And that's what I want to do. I want to draw this line. So that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. And we'll be working on this effect for the rest of the year. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for supporting me in all the ways that you do, like going to PayPal and Patreon and by showing up and watching the stream. And Bo is here. Hi, Bo. Great to have you here. And yeah, I see you all tomorrow when we'll draw that little line, hopefully. Maybe. We'll see. Have a good one. Bye. My keyboard shortcut doesn't work. I really want to understand what's up with OBS and keyboard shortcuts. Whatever. See you tomorrow. Bye.